Imagine this. A relationship that, well, from the outside anyway, it looked like some kind of artistic dream.
Really?
You had two really creative people, FKA Twigs and Shia LaBeouf, working together, seemingly unstoppable.
Yeah.
But then you start to picture this hidden darkness, behind closed doors. And then suddenly, just recently, this highly anticipated legal battle, it just quietly ends. You might have heard bits and pieces, seen some headlines. Maybe you're just wondering, what actually happened there?
It's such a stark reminder, isn't it? This whole story, it really challenges how we think about public justice.
How so?
Well, it makes you wonder if closure, for the people actually involved, sometimes just happens completely away from the spotlight, regardless of what the public might expect or want in terms of the full airing.
That is exactly what we're getting into today. This deep dive is all about that really complex story of FKA Twigs and Shia LaBeouf. We're going to trace their journey from that initial artistic spark through the really serious allegations of abuse, and then land on this quiet, private settlement.
Right.
Our mission here is to unpack the key details, look at the accusations, the responses, and this surprising ending. We want to help you understand what it means for them and also what it might reflect about bigger issues in society.
And when you do connect it to that bigger picture, it becomes pretty clear this isn't just some celebrity gossip thing.
Yeah.
It's like a window into the really insidious ways power and control can work, and how difficult, how non-linear the path to justice and healing often is.
So let's start at the beginning. Where did their story kick off?
It seems like the initial spark was back in 2018. They met filming a movie.
Okay.
And FKA Twigs, her real name's Tahliah Barnett, she was already known for really pushing boundaries artistically, right? Her music, her performances.
Absolutely. Groundbreaking stuff.
And LaBeouf, well, he had this reputation for pushing different kinds of boundaries, more emotional ones maybe, on screen and off.
Yeah, definitely a reputation there. The sources we looked at described their initial chemistry as, quote, undeniable, like this really intense creative connection. But the line seems to be that what looked like creative passion turned into something much darker.
And that raises a really crucial question, doesn't it? How does that kind of intense, undeniable connection, how does it actually morph into something so damaging?
Yeah.
The sources suggest that the intensity of their creative work together somehow spiraled. It blurred the lines between, art and control. Something became much more insidious.
The public, though, we only really started to grasp how dark things might be in 2020. That's when FKA Twigs took this huge step. She filed a lawsuit against LaBeouf.
Yeah, a major step.
And the allegations revealed were just shocking. She accused him of sexual battery, assault, serious emotional abuse, and even knowingly giving her an STD.
Really serious claims.
She described how he systematically isolated her, controlled her money, apparently monitored her every move. There's one story shared in the sources. It's particularly vivid and chilling. He was allegedly driving recklessly, threatening to crash the car unless she professed her love for him right then and there.
God, that's terrifying.
She talked about that whole period as just emotional torture, manipulation, and moments that left deep psychological scars.
That specific image, being trapped in a car like that, it's not just physical threat, is it? It's like profound coercive control.
Exactly.
Shows the terrifying lengths an abuser might go to just to dominate and emotionally terrorize someone. And the pattern she described, the isolation, the control, the manipulation, they aren't just random incidents. It's often a systematic way of dismantling someone's independence.
Like the isolation.
Yeah, the isolation, for example. That often means cutting someone off from their friends, their family. It leaves the victim totally dependent on the abuser, which just amplifies the control.
And it's crucial to note, Twigs wasn't alone in these experiences, apparently. The sources highlight that others who'd worked with LaBeouf also shared troubling experiences.
Right, that context is important.
Her decision to actually file the lawsuit was massive, hugely significant. She put everything on the line. And while, yes, her speaking out inspired thousands, it also opened her up to intense scrutiny, backlash, and just unimaginable pressure.
And this case really illustrates that broader societal challenge, doesn't it? The huge cost for survivors who do come forward.
Yeah.
Beyond the immediate legal stuff or the public gaze, there's the long-term psychological weight, potential career impacts, that constant fight against people just not believing you.
It's immense.
Yet even with those terrible odds, their choice to speak out often starts these vital conversations. It empowers so many others who are suffering in silence.
So, faced with these incredibly serious claims, How did LaBeouf respond?
Well, his initial public response was called vague.
Okay.
He did admit to some past wrongdoings, said he was in recovery, but he explicitly denied many of her specific claims.
Right. So not a full admission by any means.
No. And then, as you might expect, the legal battle just dragged on for years.
Yeah, I remember seeing headlines about court dates being scheduled, then pushed back, then scheduled again.
Exactly. That protracted process isn't really unusual in cases like this. It creates this long period of uncertainty for them and for everyone watching.
And there was so much public speculation, wasn't there? Like, would they ever actually face each other in court? Would we ever hear all the details?
And LaBeouf's approach, admitting general wrongdoings but denying specifics, that's a fairly common legal tactic. It tries to lessen the risk while still acknowledging some level of fault.
So, after all those years of legal back and forth, all the public waiting, the end didn't come with a big courtroom showdown.
No.
It came with this unexpected quiet. Just this week, confirmation came through. FKA Twigs and Shia LaBeouf reached a private settlement.
Done.
The case is now closed, and importantly, with prejudice.
And that phrase, with prejudice, that's really key here, isn't it?
Yeah, what does that mean exactly?
For the public, it basically means we probably won't see any more legal action or get any more official details about these specific allegations. It's legally finished.
Okay.
And for Twigs and LaBeouf, it signifies a definite, permanent end to this legal chapter. The threat of relitigating this specific case is gone.
And they put out a statement?
A short joint statement, apparently, expressing goodwill and closure. But the sources described it as just a few words, yet loaded with silence.
Loaded with silence. That really captures it. The sudden, quiet end after years of buildup. That's what brings us to the core questions we want to unpack, right?
Exactly.
Why settle? And why now? Was it just exhaustion from the long fight? Was it some kind of strategic move? Or, like the sources wonder, is it just something we'll never know? And specifically for Twigs, you have to ask, did she feel heard in the end? Or did she just choose peace over continuing the public battle?
These motivations are likely really complex, multi-layered. From what the sources indicate, Twigs' stated goal wasn't just about punishment. It seemed rooted in wanting to make a broader difference.
Let's explore those motivations a bit more. Starting with FKA Twigs, the sources suggest that maybe, for her, this was always about reclaiming her power.
That makes sense.
She consistently said she didn't file the lawsuit for revenge, but to stop a pattern. Her goal, it sounds like, was to give a voice to those trapped in similar cycles of abuse. People whose stories maybe don't make headlines.
That's a really powerful stated aim. But, given that the settlement is private, do the sources give any hint about whether that pattern is actually disrupted? Or if that voice is truly given when all the details stay behind closed doors?
That's a great question.
Or is the act of speaking out, filing the suit, telling her story publicly initially? Is that enough, maybe, regardless of the final legal outcome? It's complicated thinking about what justice looks like for survivors.
It really is. Okay, so what about LaBeouf's motivations? The settlement clearly lets him avoid the risk of a public trial.
Definitely. A trial would have brought intense scrutiny, potentially really damaging testimony out in the open.
Yeah. The sources note he's been mostly silent about it all. He's reportedly focusing on therapy, sobriety, and fatherhood in his personal life. But his future in Hollywood remains uncertain. And the big question that hangs in the air, as the sources put it, is whether true accountability was ever reached.
And that contrast between the private end and the public questions about accountability, that's really significant here.
Yeah.
A settlement lets them both move on legally, sure, but it doesn't necessarily satisfy that broader societal desire for transparency or for a full reckoning with the alleged actions.
Right.
His focus on therapy and sobriety, that points to a personal journey he's on.
Yeah.
The public side of things, his career, the perception of accountability for his past, that's still very much an open discussion.
Absolutely. And beyond just the headlines and the legal moves, this case wasn't just celebrity drama, was it?
Not at all.
The sources called it a mirror, reflecting how manipulation works, how power distorts love, and maybe the most painful part, how even the most talented, self-assured people can be broken down behind closed doors.
Precisely. That's where this story really goes beyond just them. It forces all of us to confront some uncomfortable truths about relationships, about vulnerability, things that are much more universal.
Yeah.
It reminds you that these abusive dynamics are often hidden, they're systematic, and they can completely dismantle someone's sense of self, no matter how strong or successful they seem on the outside.
It's a chilling thought. And finally, let's touch on healing and justice in this context. Twigs broke the silence. That was a huge, incredibly courageous step.
Undeniably.
The sources suggest something profound. Healing isn't linear, and justice doesn't always wear a robe. What does that actually mean for someone like Twigs?
Well, it implies that sometimes, maybe, it's in choosing to move forward, even if the past never fully lets go.
Choosing to move forward.
Yeah, it's a really important point to end on, I think. It acknowledges that, okay, the legal system is one path to justice, but often, for survivors, the act of speaking out itself, of reclaiming their own story, choosing their own path to recovery, that can be a more meaningful form of justice, maybe even more healing than any court decision.
That makes a lot of sense.
It highlights that moving forward, even with pain or unanswered questions still there, is actually an act of incredible strength and self-determination.
So the legal fight is over, but the questions definitely aren't, are they?
No, not at all.
What will FKA Twigs do next? What will Shia LaBeouf say, if he says anything more? And maybe the biggest question, how many other stories like this are still hidden out there, just in silence, waiting for their own resolution, quiet or public?
Those lingering questions really underline it. The legal chapter might be closed, but the human story and what it means for society, that keeps unfolding.
One thing feels crystal clear, though. Just because a settlement is private doesn't mean the impact isn't public.
Yeah.
Sometimes the most powerful stories aren't the ones that end with some big loud bang. Sometimes they end with a quiet, unresolved echo, one that never really fades away.
A powerful thought.
So what does this quiet echo mean for you? And for how you think about justice and about healing? Something to consider.